For those of you that did not see in class us create the dragon eye, I'm going to show you how we did it. Okay, so you're going to take one of the red containers that we have in class, and you're going to lightly trace around the container. Okay, if it's not perfect and you have like little straggly ends, you can always go back in and erase those and fix it. Okay, it's not, you're not going to really darken it too much. I'm just darkening it so that y'all will be able to see it in the video. Okay, the next step we're going to do kind of like the corner of the eye. This would be the part that's closest to the dragon's nose, I guess you could say. So I kind of curve the lines out. Okay, the next step, you're going to kind of cut across the eye because we want this to look like part of the colored part of the dragon's eye is covered by the dragon's eyelid. So you can kind of just curve this across. Just going to fix this line a little bit. Okay, curve that across. Okay, and then you can go and erase the original top part of that circle that you traced. Okay, now we're going to do this corner of the eye, and it doesn't go out quite as far and kind of curves to a point like that. Okay, the next part you got to make sure you do nice and light because we are going to be erasing some of it. This is going to be the guidelines for your scales, so it's basically just the area letting you know that that's how far out or how large you need to make your scale there. So this is going to be pretty much for the eyelid. So I'm just drawing it a little darker so y'all can see it, but you don't need to draw it dark because you will need to erase it eventually. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing on this part. It's closer in at the corner of the eye, but then it gets bigger towards the middle. Okay, and then it goes back in at the corner. Okay, then you're going to create just a little line on each side at the corner of the eye, and we're going to do that same thing again. It starts in a little bit closer here, gets wider, and it actually goes off the page here. Okay, because we don't want to make it smaller again, that wouldn't make sense. So it goes closer and then it'll go off the page. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. It's going to get wider and then it goes off the page right here at the bottom. Okay, same thing with this side. Okay, so now all I need to do is right about here, like pretty much just at the corners, I'm going to give it a little curved line so that as if my scales were to continue, that would be, you know, kind of where they would go to. So the next step, you're going to need to start drawing in the scales themselves. Now, the way I explained this to the students in class was, think of the eye almost like the sun, and the rays coming out from the sun are going to be the scales. So if we have our first scale being here, think about each one of these, the sides, it's coming out from the middle. So it goes like this. So it makes it kind of easy to kind of orient it from the middle. So that way we do our straight lines first, and then we're going to do the outside curved line of the scale. So we're going to end it by curving a line for each of those, so it's going to turn it into the scale. We will eventually go back in and erase that original guideline so that all you're left with is your scales. Now notice my scales are sharing a line, so you're not going to have a space in between the scales. This scale and this scale share a side. We don't want to have a space in between because then it'll make it hard to know like how to color that when we get to checkpoint 2. Okay, so just going to do that. Okay, and I'm going to do that same thing on this bottom area. So start in my middle. Just makes it easy. Okay, so now I'm just going to go in, curve those lines. If I need to darken up my little straight lines, I can. Okay, so now I can go back in, erase the original guideline, so that all I'm left with is my scales themselves. If you lose any part of your line, you can just go back over it real quick. Alright, so now on to the next row. Same thing, the only difference is we don't want to go line to line, you want to go middle. So I don't want to draw my line straight out from there, because then it's just, they're all going from the same lines, it creates a weird stripe. Instead you want to kind of stagger them. So I'm going from the middle of that scale, okay? I'll go from the middle of this scale, from the middle. Okay, if it looks like it's going to make them too like strange, like where they're going to look like they're going to be too long and skinny, then maybe you'll skip a scale so that it'll make it a little bit wider. I don't have that problem. Mine are pretty spaced out. Okay, so this I'm probably going to fix, well, I guess it'll be alright. It's kind of skinny, so I'm going to make this kind of go more straight out so that that one doesn't get too skinny. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing over here, from here. See, I'm going to skip this one because this would be too skinny, so I'm going to skip that one. And again, it's kind of like the, you know, the rays of the sun. You have it come out from the middle. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to start doing the curved lines. Now, for these curved lines, for the part where it goes off of the paper, for that part, you're not going to see the curve. So don't try to force that in. See, it's going to go off the paper here, so I'm just going to do this part of the curve. And then it goes off the paper. We don't see this part. Okay, you're not going to see any of it here, so don't draw it in because that'll look weird. The only part I'm going to see is right here where it comes back in. So I'm going to curve this. Okay, so that's going to be my scale. So then I'm going to go from here, curve, curve. Okay. Same thing here, it's not going to show the whole thing. So then I'm going to go back in after I finish this side. And I will erase my original guideline. Okay, so now we're just erasing the original guideline so that all you're left with is your scales for the second row. Okay, so erase that, erase that. Okay, so now we're going to work for the next row, and it's the same process. You're going to go from the middle. You're still doing that same kind of going out from the middle part. Since this would have been too skinny, I'm going to skip and go to the next one. Go out. For most of these, I'm not even going to see the end of them. That was going to be too skinny, so I just went to the next one. Next. So as you see, if it looks like it's going to be too skinny, I'll just kind of skip. Now here, this very little corner, I'm just going to put a line right there. Okay, and same thing here. I'm just going to put a line there. You can barely see it. Let me scooch it this way. I'm just giving a little line there. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm just going to give it a little line here. You know, and same thing here. I'm going to give it a line there. Okay, so now all I have to do is go in, curve my lines that I can see, which aren't that many. Okay, erase the guideline. Okay, so this one gets a curve, this one gets a little curve. I erase the guideline, so all I'm left with is the scales. And same thing with this one right here. This is going to curve like that. This is going to curve like that. I'm going to erase my original guideline. Okay, and same thing with this one right here. Curve it, curve, erase the original guideline. Okay, so now that I have it correct, okay, this is, all the scales are drawn in. So now the only thing you have left is the pupil. The pupil is that black part in the center of your eye. You've got a couple different options for a pupil shape, okay? If you wanted to do a kind of star shaped, where it kind of points like this, you could do that, okay? If you want to do something, it almost looks like the Xbox controller. You can kind of, or the Xbox, you know, button. You can kind of go like this, and you're just going to make everything thicker. So I started off with kind of a curved X, and then you just curve your lines. Because you don't want it to be just a skinny line. That's not going to look right. But that kind of looks cool. So then I'm just going to erase the center part, so that that's the part that's going to be black on my dragon eye. Okay. Other options, I mean, you could just do a circle. If you wanted to do a circle in the middle of it, that's fine too. If you wanted to make it more like a cat eye, you could just kind of, you know, do something that's kind of like this. You know, you could do that too. That's fine. If you wanted to do it the other way, where you have it where it's going this way, you could do that too. I think it looks kind of strange, but it's okay. Okay, but that is checkpoint 1 of your dragon eye. I'll show you checkpoint 2 later.